Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner and special guests Nick Pretzel and Jill from Ohio. How's everybody doing this morning?
James, I'm doing all right. Jill, how are you?
Very tired at 5:30 in the morning, but doing pretty well. How about you, Nick? How are you doing?
I am awake. I am here. I am ready to talk Steelers.
Amen.
Yep. I definitely need some coffee when I'm done with the show. I will apologize for missing last week. I was excited to listen to Nick's 53-man roster. And James, special guest, but I don't know how much longer we'll be able to use that title moving forward because they were hoping they're going to be a more solidified part of the show. So very excited to have both Nick and Jill from Ohio here. I love that that's the new nickname. It's great. Listen, it just shows that even Ohio people don't like, I mean, not that you're from, but
I was like, wait a minute, I'm from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but like, listen, even the Ohio people that live there now don't like you can never conform to brown crap or weird
there's a lot of Steeler fans out here, so
yeah, especially if you get in the Youngstown area, there's a ton down there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and now that we've got Sawyer and Howard, all of the wishy-washy Ohio State fans are coming our way. So
nice. We'll take them, and you know what else we'll take is a celebration of a day that we can appreciate father figures in our lives. So before we get off the rails and get all Steelers centric, I would like to give a shout out to all the fathers out there, to our individual fathers, to those who have been a father figure in our entire lives, even if it wasn't in the original plan in life. We appreciate and love you all very much for everything you have done for us and continue to do in the future.
Yes. Also, happy Father's Day to those who just have fur babies, because sometimes that's all we got.
And happy Father's Day to the Cleveland Browns, because we're still your daddy. So
they need to be wishing us a happy Father's Day. That's what it is.
That's true. That's true.
They definitely should. Speaking of fathers, Father Time, the man who's beating Father Time and continuing to play football into his old age, Aaron Rodgers did say that Steelers tradition and Mike Tomlin are why he chose to come to Pittsburgh. No one was surprised by that. I think if you saw over the years, all the way dating back to, I think, 2019, like with the Super Bowl, or not the Super Bowl, but dating back to when he beat us in the Super Bowl. And then 2019, there was an interaction that they had from Tomlin on the sideline, Aaron Rodgers in the game, nodding, smiling at each other with a timeout play that was called. I think this was always, everyone knew he liked Tomlin. He was never shying away from that on the Pat McAfee show. He never shied away from it in any discussion he had about Mike Tomlin. So that was no surprise. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Jill, Nick, I'll let you guys go first.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh boy. It's not a surprise to me. I don't think it was more than once that Rodgers and Tomlin kind of caught each other with there were too many men on the field, but Tomlin got the timeout in. Rodgers was trying to catch him off, and they kind of gave each other the little head nod. And they've had more than one interaction on the field, as well as kind of just talking of mutual respect for each other off the field, be it Tomlin in a early in the week presser talking about preparing to face a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or like you said on the McAfee show with Rodgers coming on there and talking of his love and respect for a coach like Mike Tomlin. It just kind of seems like the inevitable thing that Rodgers would end up here at some point, especially with how the rumors began flying around with the Jets being less than satisfied with him, with Aaron Glenn wanting to go in a bit of a different direction as he took over the head coaching job out there. So not a surprise to me, or I think to anyone, that this is really what brought him in.
Yeah.
Jill,
No, I don't think I really have anything to add other than I feel like I'm liking what I'm seeing from him, and I feel like he's fitting in with like the culture of Pittsburgh, like he's coming in with his resume, he could have asked for a lot more money than what we're paying him, in my opinion. Now, granted, he is, 41, so that factors in, but I feel like that spoke a lot about how he's a team player, which, when you look in our locker room, we do have a lot of athletes who are very team minded and not individual minded. So I feel like that complements what our culture should be,
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more on this. I feel like there's been a very concentrated effort in the last 6 months here to eliminate guys that were kind of cancerous on the roster, that were me first guys, move on from them and bring in a more team-centric mindset. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff about DK Metcalf taking Joey Porter Jr.'s side and showing him, hey, this is what I was showing you on this play. You haven't seen this release before, and kind of teaching him things, which is crazy that a wide receiver is helping our corner like that. The stuff that we're hearing about Aaron Rodgers sitting next to Will Howard in meeting rooms and basically taking him under his arm. All reports are that while he was in Green Bay, his work with Jordan Love was very, very close side by side, teaching him as he was his backup. Now, obviously, there was like 3 years worth of him being the backup there, but still, we're hearing a lot of the right things. And Aaron said that there were 2 teams that he loved the history of in the NFL, and he already played for one of them, and now he's going to play for the other one. So that's the kind of stuff you like to hear. And then he listed off a plethora of coaches that he'd played for over the years that started their careers or spent time in or were from originally Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of appreciation for the history and the expectations. And I love, like what you said there, Joe, that he kept his cost low because he could have easily asked it for $30 million or more, and probably Pittsburgh would have paid it. But by keeping that low, they still have space to go acquire more talent and retain some of the talent who will be due for new contracts in the next upcoming seasons.
Yeah. And even like just more to talk about, as I know him so personally, but what we're seeing with Rodgers, I was reading something and they were like, well, we're gunning for the Super Bowl. We don't have time to mentor a new quarterback, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how can you separate like going for the Super Bowl and still like not teaching somebody, or like out of the overflow of who you are as a person and who you are as an athlete, how that doesn't impact the people around you. So I find it awesome that he's even going above and beyond just like being a good athlete, being a good person in the locker room, to like make sure that he's actually sitting with Will Howard and mentoring him. Hopefully, maybe Will Howard can be the one who gains my trust in an OSU quarterback, because I don't have it, guys. I do not have it. You can tell me CJ Stroud, but I said I want to see like 5 years out of him, and then I'll maybe then.
It was neat seeing too Will Howard's side of that coin. Of I don't know if you all caught it, but there was a short clip of him being asked about how Aaron Rodgers is to learn from and all of that. And he goes out and he says that Rodgers would be like, hey, I don't mean to overstep. He's like, please, like anything you see, tell me. And he's talking about going through progressions and like adding like, hey, if you're taking this extra step, you need to be a little more wide or something along those lines. So it's cool to see him be able to also say, like not just Rodgers say Howard is a good kid and I sit next to him in team meetings, but see that he's giving him real advice in these mini camp sessions and hopefully continuing that into training camp as well. But really just being able to see Will Howard absorb everything that Aaron, who is one of the better minds in the game as well, be able to impart upon him is really cool to see.
I think the big thing for me, and this is going back to Jill, you talking about people saying we don't have time to do mentoring, we don't have time to be team player, whatever. I think that's coming from people who haven't been a part of champion caliber teams, because every champion caliber team that I can think of and have seen documentaries on or looked into or whatever, it's always been the mindset of we're going to grow together. We're going to be the best we can be. And like the 70s Steelers were so good because they literally had like internal challenges between like, I want to have more interceptions than that guy. I want to have like, I want to play better than this guy. And it was friendly, motivational competition. And so I think that if you're not challenging the people around you, I don't think those kinds of teams or those kind of locker rooms make it deep on playoff runs anyways. And so, and you could argue that stems down from the head coach or front office or whatever. But yeah. And then going back to Nick, you know, you talk about giving good advice here on Steelers by the Lake. Our best advice is to go check out Edinburgh Hotel Bar.
Indeed.
Steelers by the Lake is sponsored in part by the Edinburgh Hotel Bar at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, with a full menu including daily lunch and dinner specials and a family-friendly, smoke-free environment. Details are available at 814-734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you had me at hotel.
And for those of you who are of the age of 21 or over, they're running a special right now on one of their new drinks. They've partnered with another group to save the bees. So all the proceeds from that special drink that are bought will be going to plants, pollinator-free plants, to help save the bees. So go out there and support your local bar, but also support Mother Nature and do a good thing.
Bring back the Bumblebee jerseys.
No,
The killer bees.
No.
The killer bees.
No. No. The rugby uniform took me out. No.
That's fair. That is fair.
I hated those.
Moving on to more Steelers news. Wide receiver coach Zach Azani says Calvin Austin III is wide receiver number 2.
I'm
or
excited
number 2
about
wide receiver. Technically, the wording matters there a little bit. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm excited. I feel like we haven't seen the true potential of him yet. And so for him to get this chance feels really exciting. Like, I feel like he's put in a lot of work. He's getting better and better every time we see him. Like, so for him to actually get the cut is pretty exciting so far. Now, will that stay true? Like, you know, as we go into preseason, I hope so. I hope so. So
I've been a big Calvin Austin III fan since day one. Day one being the day on draft day when we took him a couple picks before the Ravens, and they got really, really mad in their war room because we got the guy they were hoping would fall to them. And I was crushed when we didn't get to see him his rookie season. I'm excited, but with the caveat of I'm worried about how he'll be able to perform in that role as a smaller guy. I love the speed that he's got, but he's more of our slot kind of build, and I worry about how that can hold up against more physical defenses, especially because you saw some of the games out there where he was in a number 2 role last year, and there were times where he was just, especially against like the Bengals, where he was just getting nailed every time he caught the ball. And I worry about his durability if he's going to be in that role all season long, especially with our bye week being, I believe, week 5 this year, which is really early, especially when that backloads a lot of the divisional matchups. And in the AFC North, it's smash mouth gridiron kind of football. So I'm excited for him. I hope he thrives in the opportunity. I just worry about his ability to remain on the field through all of that as a smaller guy.
I'll tell you, I don't worry as much about him as a receiver because I feel like he just keeps getting better and better in that category. I worry a little bit more on his run blocking abilities. And it's not due to lack of effort, because boy, does he try. But his weigh-in at the combine was like 171, and I feel like that was probably with some sandbags tied to his waist or something, because I don't think he's 171.
Soaking wet.
I've heard that there's kind of a strategy because you do the weigh-in the day before you do the on-field workouts, and there's a strategy a lot of these guys do of chugging an entire jug of water before their weigh-ins because it'll add an extra 7 or 8 pounds, and then they just pee it out before the next day's workouts, and then they're still as fast as they would normally be. I feel like that strategy might have been in play a little bit for him uh, to try to weigh a little bit heavier than what he normally is. So I am very interested to see how he does in the preseason and the regular season as a run blocking wide receiver, because there were definitely some moments last year where he just got kind of tossed around when attempting to run block. And you might see them kind of delegate on those for sure running situations, him to the bench and bring Robert Woods or even Roman Wilson if he can prove himself onto the field in exchange. I just don't want them to be in a situation where it's a tell. Like if Calvin Austin's not on the field, then we're definitely running the ball. Like you can't have that. So got to be able to at least perform at a minimum expectation level in the run blocking game.
Yeah, I feel like that is the one benefit of our offensive coordinator, the fact that he likes to use tight ends, and the tight ends we have on the field is, I think there's going to be a lot of times we use 2 or 3 tight ends. And so running to that stronger side, if they're both on the same side or whatever, or pulling a guard, pulling a tight end, whoever, if we start using a fullback again, there's a lot of options with this style of offense that hopefully, and again, Calvin Austin does just need to be able to run block. Hopefully he can improve there, but with that size, that stature, it's a little challenging. No pun intended to the little part, but something that's not little is Aaron Rodgers to hold workouts and invite the teammates. That is huge. That goes back to the same thing we were talking about with being a team player and being, open to that kind of Steelers environment, traditions, all those things. And having those kind of workouts and that kind of stuff is going to be really exciting. And that he's going to have his, he's going to cook out for the O-line and practice with the wide receiver. Like he's going to be that kind of guy, or at least I'm hoping for it. We won't know all the details that happen at these private workouts, but very exciting to see that he's holding those and then inviting teammates to it.
Yeah, usually at least a few pictures get leaked, so you get a feel for who goes to these sorts of things. Usually some wide receivers and other quarterbacks attend, but it'll tell us a lot as far as who all goes to it, as to how this chemistry is working in the offseason. I'll guarantee you DK Metcalf's going to be there.
Yep. Can confirm. We've talked a lot about the offensive side of the ball, James. These last 2 topics, let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball.
Derek Harmon already getting starting reps in practice, which is impressive, being that we're just finishing up mandatory minicamp, which was just a 3-day practice and then the 6 days of OTAs previous to that. So no reason not to, in my book. Did you bring some guys in with the intent of them being capable of starting? Absolutely. Are they even close to the talent that Derek has, Derek Harmon? I don't think so. So might as well get them out there right away. And I love seeing them do that and not doing like the old school, well, you got to earn it and it's going to be week 6 or it's going to be year 2 before we put you in the starting lineup. Get them out there right now. We need them on that starting unit.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm excited to see him get some number 1 reps. And again, if he's the best option, put him out there. Don't waste time. Allow this defense, especially with how quickly we're going to have to make changes because of that early bye week. It's going to be an interesting time to see what happens after that bye week and how the defense is moving on all cylinders. Someone who's not moving on all cylinders right now is TJ. TJ's not at minicamp. TJ's not there. TJ's not there. Not much more to say about that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm only slightly concerned about that. Him and his wife just had a baby.
Yep.
They're still in contract negotiations, although Mike Tomlin's interview about the status of that was just true Mike Tomlin-ism. Everything about that was hilarious. But this was the same thing that happened when we re-signed him back in 21? And then he went to have 20 plus sacks in 2022 and 60 tackles or something like that.
Yep.
So him not being at minicamp, the physicality piece of it, I'm not concerned. It's more are we going to actually sign him? Are we going to give him the money that he deserves?
I think that's where my concern definitely comes in,
Yeah.
especially with the money that we just allotted to Aaron. does Pittsburgh have the funds to give him the contract that he deserves and wants? And that is a massive, massive concern for me now. It wasn't before. I knew that Pittsburgh could afford it. Now I don't know. And it's a genuine fear of, how are they going to get this done? And James might have more of the number breakdown than I do because I typically expect that from him. But it's very, very concerning.
Let me tell you, Cody, that from what I have heard and read on the topic, they can give him a hefty raise, and let's just say $40 million for the example. If they gave him $40 million, it would actually lower his salary cap number for this season by like $7 or $8 million. And that's because of how much of the signing bonus gets prorated outside the duration of the contract. So if it's, let's say, $40 million a year and it's 4 years, and the first 2 years are fully guaranteed, now you're talking about an $80 million spread out over 4 years for salary cap purposes, which only hits you $20 million on that first year. So it's very easily doable from a financial side, which just means there's something else going on that is not getting the deal done. And I don't know if it's Pittsburgh lowballing him too much or if TJ just wants to spend a little more time with his newborn child and his wife right now. And nobody really knows what it is. But I do have faith that they're going to get this done. Nick, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I'm not overly worried about it. TJ, in the most recent contract discussions that we had prior to this contract discussion, was, from the reports that I was hearing, willing to take less money than his agent thought he could have got out of Pittsburgh in order to get with the team and be there and do what he needed to do. So I'm not overly worried about that side of things. And most of the reports I'm hearing say that there's an offer out on the table to TJ. I just don't know if it was a low ball or, again, if he's just trying to spend as much time as he can with the new, I believe it's a daughter. So, again, congratulations to the Watts. But also, kind of like Jill said, TJ's a workaholic. So he's going to be at home working out. There's no worry for me about him declining or not being able to gel with the team. TJ knows this team inside and out. So I'm expecting him to be signed. I'm expecting him to be there for the start of the season. And I'm expecting him to be out there playing football because he loves it too much. And he loves this team. He's a team guy, and he's going to want to get paid, but I don't think he's asking for an exorbitant amount of money. I think he's just asking for what he's due. So not really overly worried about the situation. I don't see it to be anywhere near what the Bengals are going through right now. So always going to get a dig into them there when I can. Again, not overly worried, just would rather get this deal done sooner rather than later because TJ's one of those guys you want on your team until he retires.
I love that for them. The Bengals really to Jill's point real quick before we move on to the next topic here, you're absolutely right about the last time he had one of these contract negotiations. That was the year that he tied the sack record and the year that he won Defensive Player of the Year.
And he was snubbed every other year.
Snubbed many other years.
Many.
We have no reason to worry about TJ's work ethic and what he's doing. That man's working out with his big brother, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, they're not doing the lake challenge now, the lake plunge, because it's not cold enough. But I'm sure they're still getting in ice cold water at their place. So very excited for that. Again, I'm not concerned about the whole TJ thing. We'll see what happens, especially with you breaking down the numbers for me, James. I'm excited to see him come back and hopefully have an improved Hall of Fame career. He's already going to have a Hall of Fame career.
Absolutely.
But now it is time for the meat and potatoes of this show. Jill is going to share her 53-man roster prediction. Jill is the third of us to share, and then I will share mine next week. Actually, no, I won't. We'll figure that out.
All right. This was quite the challenge. And I have never done a 53-man roster, so this was quite fun to put together. But I'll start with offense. I tried to keep it even. I tried to do 25 offense, 25 defense. It was incredibly challenging. And I'm looking at my laptop over here. So if I'm not looking at you guys, that's why. Quarterback, obviously Rodgers, Rudolph, and Howard. That giveaway there. Running back, I've got Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and Kenneth Gainwell. And then wide receiver, had to make a switch. Not that I'm not necessarily doing these in order. The first one's the starter, and then the rest I'm just kind of,
Okay.
DK, obviously. Then Calvin Austin. I've got Robert Woods, Roman Wilson, and Ben Skoranek. And I am following suit. I think all three of us so far have only kept 5 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So I am following suit with that because this is where I had some of the most trouble, I should say, was the tight end room.
Mhm.
This was really challenging because what I would like to see is I would like to see Muth and Washington, and then I'd like to see Galbraith and DJ Thomas Jones. That's what I would like because Thomas Jones can play fullback. He's bigger. I mean, he's like 2 inches taller than Hayward. He's heavier. He can block better. I feel like Hayward has had a lot of time to learn. I don't know because I've never played football. So, I'm just an observer. Never have taken a snap and nothing. So I don't know what training would look like how do you out train size? I guess was my thought process going into this.
You don't.
Because I'm like, I don't know how you can block more efficiently when you are just smaller than everybody. But I mean, he is 6 foot, which I'm like, that's compared to me, that's huge. But like in that position, when you then have like Darnell Washington, who's what, like 6'6", 6'7"? Yeah, like
7, I think, yeah.
Skyrocket over there. But so I have it like that. I think Hayward is going to make the roster. So that, when I'm thinking about this, in mind, I don't have him making the roster, but with how I feel like our culture is, where we go more like the family route, I feel like Mike Tomlin's going to put him on there, and then we'll sign one of these, either Galbraith or Thomas Jones to the roster, and then the other one will go to the practice squad. But in my dream world over here, in my 53-man roster, it's Galbraith and Thomas Jones, and Hayward's going to the practice squad. But anyway, so that was a really hard decision. I still don't know if that's actually what's gonna happen. We'll see. And then I've got for my line Broderick Jones, Isaac Siamalu, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fatuano. This was another one, the backups, because I was skeptical about putting Dylan Cook on the roster. I have him as a backup. I also have Spencer Anderson, Ryan McCollum, Max Sharping, and then Calvin Anderson. And my thought with Dylan Cook is he was inactive all of 2023 or something like that. And then he was injured for the first part of last year and then came back as our depth piece. And then because then I was like, well, all right, I had to do a little more research because I was like, where was he at before? And then he was on the practice squad in Tampa Bay. So already looking at my roster, I'm putting him on there for now, but he's probably one of the first ones I would make a change with, especially because I'm pretty sure, isn't it Spencer Anderson? Can't he play tackle potentially? Yep. So I'm like,
yeah.
So I'm putting Cook on my roster right now, but he's, if I were to change things, I would take him off. So, and that's the offense. Do I have any?
What's that number?
25.
25 on offense. Okay.
Yes. I'm 25 offense. I split
defense
even.
is
going to be 25 and it sucks.
I was going to say, I'm really interested.
It sucks because again, so like, looking at change, let me go through the defense first and then I'll go back and talk about because I went back and forth so many times on this. So looking at the line, I've got Harmon, Benton, Hayward, Watt, and Highsmith. Backing them up, I've got Loudermilk, Black, Equale, Herbig, and Sawyer. And that was hard. So, especially because we've got people like Logan Lee and Lowry that, I feel like a lot's going to shake out in preseason. So I feel like doing this roster has made me more excited for preseason because we have so much depth. And I'm like, if these guys can like fight for their spot, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be an all out brawl trying to get to the 53 man.
It's why James and I are always so excited for preseason.
Man.
That's it. It's extraordinarily deep this year at D-line, middle linebacker, and even outside linebacker. And that makes those positions very difficult to decide who you're going to keep.
Yeah.
We are less than 2 months away from the first preseason game at Jacksonville.
That is so crazy.
I'm going to go Bart Scott on you. Can't wait.
All right. So then I've got Patty Q and Peyton Wilson. Backing them up, I've got Cole Holcomb and Malik Harrison. I also have Carson Bruner on there. And then we've got Darius Slay, JPJ, and then I've got Corey Trice. And then for safety, we've got Fitzpatrick and Elliott. Backing them up, Killebrew and Thornhill. And then I've got Beanie Bishop, Brandon Eccles, and Dante Kent, with the thought of he can also play corner. So he can kind of fill in the gap. Like when I put together my spreadsheet, I don't technically have anybody backing up Joey Porter, but signing Dante Kent he could then back up Joey Porter if need be. Mm-hmm. So, but I had a hard time because if I were to do this again, I think I would look at take Dylan Cook out and add Castro to defense. Fair. I think is what I would do.
It's tough. I'll tell you what, I didn't like an additional offensive tackle enough, and I got in the same situation as you. I was real hesitant with Dylan Cook because 2 years ago, he was the top backup offensive tackle.
Yep.
And then last year, they barely wanted him up higher than the practice squad. And then how do you look at that versus some of the practice squad guys and some of the undrafted guys coming in? That was tough for me. I would have also put Galbraith on mine had Parham not been available at the time. But when I did mine, Parham was still healthy.
Right.
He blew his Achilles out like 3 days later. So I like where your thought process is on that. And it's just tough on that D-line. I went the same way you did on it, but I didn't like leaving Logan Lee off, and I don't know if you can get away with leaving him off 2 years in a row without somebody poaching him off the practice squad. That's my big concern there. I feel like it's going to be between him and Loudermilk. That's my thing, is that's where the battle's going to come down to. Unless they pull another Steeler move and keep 7, which they've done before at the beginning of the seasons.
That's true.
I had the benefit of not having the luxury of extra time to think about these things. So I just had to kind of plug and pull, and this guy's gone and this guy's in. And so I didn't have as much of that struggle because I couldn't afford to. I like a lot of the moves that you've made. It'll be interesting to see where Pittsburgh adds that extra depth. Is it going to be in the corner room? Is it going to be on the D-line? Is it going to be on the O-line? Because we've had a history of injuries there. So it'll be interesting to see where they decide to shore things up a little more this year as opposed to in previous years. If there's a little bit more of that recency bias that plays into, hey, maybe we should keep an extra one of these guys since we know what we have in them. Rather than letting them potentially be sniped off this practice squad by another team, just like James was mentioning with potentially on the D-line. So it'll be interesting to see who they're willing to potentially let get nabbed and where they're going to kind of shore things up. But I like what you did.
Thank you. Yeah, it was that line was so hard. And I do feel like it was really tough between Lee and Loudermilk and even like Dean Lowry. I'm like, man, there's We've got
Yeah.
so much depth at defense.
Lowry's the veteran of those guys,
He-
technically. I'm 10-year pro. And then you have Logan Lee, who's this is going to be his next third year, I think.
Second
like that.
year's a rookie
Second year.
last year. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
My question is, Jill, who do you have winning the very tight punter battle that we've got on our hands here?
I'm screaming.
That's
I'm going with Cameron Johnson.
let's go. Sucker.
Wow. Well, you know what? Boz is our kicker too. So
Pause for president.
Boz for president, Boz for MVP. We say it every week. And then Christian Kuntz.
The wonderful Wizard of Boz.
The wonderful Wizard of Boz. Oh, I meant to call Aaron Rodgers Renegade Rodgers for you,
Renegade.
Nick.
Hey, there you
Renegade
go.
Rodgers.
Hey, I kind of wish that instead of 8, he had taken the number 15, so we could have had Will Howitzer Howard and AR-15, but that's just me.
Wow. Oh, it's going to be an interesting year. I did see people messaging on one of those Steelers groups on Facebook about what the nickname for our running back duo should be now with Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. Yeah, so that was a fun one. I don't know if you guys have anything. You don't have to share if you do, but I'm just curious to see if you guys have anything. It was always the standard, thunder and lightning, and I was like, that's so dumb. I was like, it's just
Ew. Right.
Well, and then like Detroit has Sonic and Knuckles, so you'd have to start thinking about what's going on with potential duos that they could be. But I think that'll have to come more once we see them interact.
the running styles.
Mhm.
Yeah. So once we see them play a bit more, see what they do, then we can kind of play around with that. But
it feels almost like a bowling ball and a bowling pin on this one. I don't know.
It does. It really does. I saw somebody posted on there something, I didn't know how to take it. It said something about Hawaiian pizza or something because of Jalen being Samoan. But it was funny.
He is an Islander. Let's be
I
real.
know, but that's why I said it was the one out of the box one that I thought that I saw, but it was very this is very questionable.
Hey, Hawaiian pizza low key is a goat for a pizza combination.
Oh, it is. Oh, I love Hawaiian pizza.
So
oh my
good.
gosh.
All right. Well, I'm the odd man out because pineapple on pizza is a crime. That's a
Have you ever had grapes on pizza? Because grapes on
No.
pizza is phenomenal.
That's wow.
I've-
Straight
I've
to jail.
recently-
White sauce with grapes. That's like
I've
you pick sticks,
recently-
I think, in Erie.
I've recently been exposed to pickles on pizza as well, which I was
Okay.
unsure
Nope.
about.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
see, thank you,
No.
thank you.
Yes, Nick, I will join you in that. If you haven't been to Picklesburg, that you should go because it's.
That is true. That's a thing. I would never. I'll go to experience it, but I'm not tasting anything.
Oh my gosh.
I'll throw up
The
everywhere.
food's
It's not
so
worth it.
great.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
For the drive back, it's not worth it. Before we get too far off the rails here, we can't thank you guys for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. Jill, thank you for sharing your 53-man roster. We will probably have another one next week. Be on the lookout for that. And we can't thank you guys enough. So be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on our podcast. Make James here very happy. And from Cody, James, Jill from Ohio, and Nick Pretzel, this is Steelers by Lake Crew signing off.
Peace.